Welcome back, family. Lancescurv here. Another episode of Deep Thought. I love digging deep. You know, the older I get, it's a sensation that I feel that's kind of difficult to explain, but I'm going to try. You know when you go into an airplane and you begin to go taxi down the runway and you feel it picking up speed, but it's still on the runway? In that exact moment of liftoff, lots of times you feel a rush of adrenaline and you know you're off of the ground and you see how the plane is angling up. And now you see that you're getting higher and higher. And if you live in the neighborhood or area of that airport, you start to look down, if you have a window seat, to see familiar buildings from a unique perspective. And you can identify, if you're good, the smaller neighborhoods, but you only have a few seconds because you're rising pretty fast and moving fast. And you can see the big Walmarts and Home Depots. For those who don't live in America, those are home improvement spots and supermarkets, Walmart, big places, malls. And then something happens. If it's not too cloudy or not too dark, you notice that these places are getting smaller and smaller, and it's becoming a blur. And then you realize that any issues that you've had in your life, you see how small they are. You see how minuscule they are. From that vantage point of being up in the sky, sometimes you say to yourself, or you can feel it like, my life is just this little area. It's not that you're saying you're insignificant, but you see how vast it is around you. And then when you really go up and you get above the clouds, it's that feeling of leaving something behind. It doesn't mean you want to leave your life, or maybe you're on a vacation and you're coming back home, but you have an expanded mentality. And the funny thing is, for most of us, we don't maintain that expanded mindset to know that the world is really a big place. And although I haven't traveled the world per se, or many countries, I mean, down in the Caribbean and here to West Africa, where I live now, I maintain that. I've always maintained that even before traveling anywhere. I've always known that this place is big. And why am I saying all this? Well, because many of us, we forget that feeling on how huge the planet Earth is. And even though it's huge, it's a minuscule speck of dust in the whole galaxy, in the whole universe. And that thought alone keeps me in check that although I'm precious, although my life is precious, and we're made in a very unique way, that we need to curb that sense of self-importance and entitlement and this we're better than other people type thing. At the same time, you have to understand that as small as we may be, we are important. We're made for a purpose. We're made by the best, but it's a balance. But the thing is that most people will not understand that because they've been trained like trained puppies, like trained circus animals to move about, not in a great way, but in a very controlled way. And so this is what brought to mind the thoughts that made me jot down my notes to read from, mixed up with the shoot from the hip things I'm going to say. But from the moment we open our eyes to the world, we are told that education is the key to freedom. Parents believe that sending us to school is giving us an opportunity. But hidden behind the books, the desks, the tests lies a deeper design. It's not freedom we are being trained for, but obedience. Are we really free when the systems keep us from speaking our mind? Are we really free when we have so many rules that even if we agree to be civil and mannerable, the rules choke us off? But that cycle is well known. We wake up each morning, go to work, pay bills, and spend weekends trying to recover enough strength to do it all again. This is repeated for 20, 25, 30, 40 years or more until retirement. And I'm including school years too. But after retirement, for most, finally death. Many believe this is normal, but in reality, it's a prison. This prison does not begin at the workplace. It begins in the classroom. The structure of school is the first step in shaping children into adults who accept control without questioning. I mean, they're so young, they don't have anything to gauge it. They have to accept it. It's the factory of conformity, training us to fit into the system rather than break free from it. They catch us young. What do we know? You know, you get rewarded. You do something good, you have a star put on your test paper. You get a cookie or a pretzel. You get some acknowledgement that makes you feel good, so we're trained to be obedient to get the prize. We're trained to be obedient to get the raise. We're trained to be obedient to get the promotion. We're trained to be obedient to fit into the system, to be more appealing, to get the love of our life. We train really well in conformity, but do we really feel free in this? Because we're always striving for a reward that once we get it, it's never really as satisfying as we thought. So it's on to the next one. So the Black community, in particular, suffers deeply under this design. Our children are processed in schools that rarely affirm their greatness. Instead, they're taught to obey, to compete, and to accept a life path already decided by forces outside their control. But I want to go back on what I said. Our children are processed in schools that rarely affirm their greatness. Black children, American African children, melanated children, they're not going to teach you about your greatness. They want to disconnect you from that and teach you to be subservient, mannerable, tap dancing, obedient Negroes. Let's just call it for what it is. And many who are raised this way are frightened to move out of the system. Because to pursue your greatness, number one, you weren't taught that in school, in the system. You were taught to go along and get along. So when you challenge the system, many who are in your circles, your various circles, will recoil and back away from you because you're not doing the right thing, even when they catch a hint that what you're doing is correct or what you're speaking is the truth. It puts fear in their heart, so they stay in line. It puts fear in their heart. Like a man who's driving over the double yellow line on a 2-lane road, high up on the mountain, on the side of the mountain where you can look down. You don't want to have a head-on collision up there, because if you do, you might end up going over the edge to a sure death. So this is the fear that they have. So when you see things outside of the silent prison of school, you learn to keep your mouth shut. But how long can you keep your mouth shut when you see that something is wrong? And when our children are raised to understand their greatness and they're not processed in school, look at that word, processed. Processed, pasteurized, American cheese food. American cheese food. I'm using what they call cheese as an example. You go in the supermarket and on your shopping list, you have to get cheese. You put it down that you are going to get some cheese. And you have your children with you. So they're running over to the other aisles to help you so you can get out faster. And they run over to the dairy aisle. And you might be in the same aisle, but they run up ahead of you and they say, "Mommy, I'm going to get some cheese for you." And they grab what they think is cheese. But they don't know that what's written on the label, pasteurized, processed, American cheese food. Well, it looks like cheese. It smells like cheese. But it's a kind of derivative and watered down version of cheese. So they have to put it that way. There might be cheese in it, but it's not 100% cheese, which is going to be more expensive. So they don't know. By law, they have to label it that way. Cheese food, pasteurized, processed. And if you look on the side of the label, you realize that it's not as authentic as the real block of cheese that costs so much more money. Well, your children are processed in school. So what kind of schooling are they getting when they're processed? It's a knockoff education. It's not the same education that their future oppressors get in the so-called more affluent schools. See? Even in those areas, so-called affluent neighborhoods where the people don't look like us, even for some of those who do look like us who live in those areas, their children are going to get a different type of education, especially when they send them to private school. And those teachers and administration in the private school, they have to be held accountable. And we think that in the public schools where many of our children go, that they're going to be held accountable. And yeah, to a point, but the agenda is written in stone. Whether they admit it or not, they're teaching your children to be servants in a bigger system. And across town, in those so-called affluent schools, where the neighborhoods pay higher taxes, trust me, they're trained a different way. But in the public schools or the affluent schools, if you have a melanated child there that knows a little more than what the curriculum is teaching in the school, that's a red flag. When you have parents or family members or whoever is raising your children and they walk with a lot more pride, they walk with a lot more strength, and they have some fire in their eyes, which indicates the fire in their hearts, they begin to look at them more and more. You see? Because the harsh truth is this: The system was never built to liberate us. It was built to domesticate us. And unless we recognize this cycle and intervene, we'll continue to pass it down to future generations, never breaking free from the chains that were placed on us at the first school desk. And people say, oh, slavery has been abolished. Slavery is over. Oh, really? You really think so? When they're getting us in the classroom from day one. I find it funny, and I'm going to say this in a very coded way that you'll understand. And I don't know about anywhere else but New York City, because that's where I was born and raised. Okay? All of the teachers, 90% of them in elementary school, 90%, they were 1948s. They were small hats. The names that they had, the Goldbergs, the Steinbergs, the Rubinows, Lutz, Chrisman, some who changed their names to not sound like that. From young, I always wondered that. Because, I heard things growing up and I was taught things growing up. I mean, I can't help it. But before we moved to Queens, we lived on 152nd Street between Amsterdam and St. Nick. And right on the corner by St. Nick and 152nd was the beginning of Convent Avenue in Washington Heights in New York City, Manhattan. And why am I saying this? My father's shop was a block and a half where he kept his machines, his tools, and it was on 152nd on Broadway. 152nd on Broadway, well, between 151st and 152nd, closer to 152nd. Why am I saying this? Well, I remember the first Muhammad Speaks. Not the first, but I was going to say before the final call, there was Muhammad Speaks, when Elijah Muhammad was alive. And you saw the fruit of Islam. And you'd hear those brothers out there talking, telling us, I was a little boy, single digit ages coming up, and my father would tell me. And I always knew that it was strange for somebody else to teach us in school. But they taught us the basics. But to me, they were like sentinels, those teachers, looking over the mountain range. In war, you have the sentinels that look over the mountain range to see if there's opposition coming. That's the way I felt. They just weren't there to teach. They were there to spot and label the brightest of us, the boldest of us, the ones that they can see had potential for greatness. What's wrong with that? Shouldn't you encourage that? But the schools weren't really there to encourage that. It's to funnel us into being subservient. I was a heavy thinker as a child. Even though I didn't connect all the dots yet, I knew something was wrong. I knew there were some teachers who had problems with me. Maybe not overt, but they would try to slightly use their little Jedi mind tricks to corral me, to discourage me. And there were some who were overt that had to deal with my parents. So I believe somehow, some way from young, it was a matter of, you better watch that one. That's a live wire right there. And he's got backup of his parents. And he's spouting historic facts that we didn't teach him. That's bad for them. And when you look today, who runs things in America? Who America gives so much aid to? Who feels so brazen to unalive people whose land they were afforded? And you think about the dual citizenship of many of the politicians in America, movers and shakers, and they have dual citizenship. And you know where they have dual citizenship too. I mean, I have dual citizenship, but it's in Ghana and America. And many want to treat that like a crime. Because on a side note, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he's over that whole passport thing, visa thing, and this was last year when I mentioned it. I'm sorry I didn't remember the name, but this person said, we're going to monitor all those who are applying for visas to Ghana because we don't want any radical entities entering Ghana and messing up their democracy. Isn't that something? They're watching deep because they know that as we reconnect with the motherland, they do not want what they call radical thought, which is revolutionary thought, empowering thought. They want everybody over here docile and ignorant to how they move so they can sink their claws deeper in. That's what it's all about. So they shrewdly said to themselves, we're going to control the education system, especially of those who are melanated, those of us in America collectively, we generate a lot of money. We have a lot of talent. And no matter how much they push the low vibrational images of us, because there are some of us who act a fool. Don't let that fool you. We're in every area of expertise in America and beyond. You can go to NASA, astronauts, spaceships, we in there. You go into government, you go into the sciences, you go into, everything. Somebody is there that looks like us. So don't be fooled. And I believe there is a fear of that. Let's bring up Public Enemy's album. What was it, 1991, Fear of a Black Planet? That's where they're trying to give us substances, Bill Gates, to help us. Really population control and sterilizing us. But we can help with the food. Let's bring them GMO foods. Be careful who you eat from. Be careful who you invite into your home. Be careful who you invite into your house, and be careful who you let around your children. This is deep. They've been doing this. The classroom is the first cage when you really think about it. Rows of desks, children sitting quietly, eyes forward, hands clasped and folded. This is the image of schooling. It looks harmless, but it is training in submission. The lesson is clear. There is one correct answer, one right way, and authority decides what that is. Curiosity is punished. Creativity is redirected. Original thought is erased. See, if you don't operate within their borders, they're basically telling you it's ineffective and wrong. But when you're curious about something, that's a very healthy way to be. And school can sometimes kill, and oftentimes kills, our curiosity to think beyond the curriculum. We, not knowing, redirect our curiosity just to absorb what's in their books, what's in their lessons. And that's it. We don't question anything because we have been conditioned to receive the prize. How about that? Creativity. You can't be creative in their system because they know that everything in the world that you see was created from an original thought. We can't have independent, creative, original thinkers who are curious to build something outside the box, to create something that's the answer to a challenge of energy, of building more efficient homes or travel, transportation, development of good natural food. We can't have these brilliant, curious minds who are creative come up with something that's outside the system that we designed for them as a prison. So the classroom has to be the first cage. Oh, you get to go home, but the cage is the cage of your mind. You see that? And teachers themselves, products of the same system, often act as enforcers without realizing it. But like I said, by design, many of them do. They reward obedience and punish originality. A child learns quickly that survival depends on compliance. This early conditioning prepares the mind for adulthood where authority, rules, and external approval dominate. Let me say it again. This early conditioning prepares the mind for adulthood where authority, rules, and external approval dominate. Early conditioning prepares the mind. Like a whip. Stay in line. You don't go over there with your thoughts, with your curiosity. Whap! You got to stay right here. And you're rewarded in front of everybody else. So we all want the reward. So we make sure to show the teacher, teacher, I got the correct answer. Give me the prize. And the other students want the prize. So now you're training their mind. You get rewarded with pleasure when you're obedient. You get rewarded with a higher raise. With more status in their system, you'll get the prize. And as a man, when you get the prize, because we know it's in the nature of a woman to be secured, and you as a man, you want your bloodline to go on, so you're going to have the most beautiful, intelligent, shapely woman because you're earning more in the system, and that's your prize. And the cycle continues. Play by the rules and send your children to the mental slaughterhouses of their schools. This is why, as great as we are, we can do, they allow us to do in their system. They allow us to expand their system. But the minute we want to do something for ourselves, silence. And those who look like you, who may be entertainers and celebrities and athletes and people of grand influence, are not allowed to help someone with independent thought outside of the system, or they're going to get punished for it, and they know their role. Ain't that something? Throw religion in there. Ain't nothing grand or great coming out of the church, because the church is subservient to the overall system. You could jump around and catch the spirit and do your little kid and play dance in church. But you better not fund anything that's independent out of the system. You send your children to the best schools, some of you in some of these churches who have money. And it serves the system. But one thing that I'll never forget, when I used to drive the 21 bus in Orlando, Florida, in the 319, which used to be called the 1922, and the 36. And I'd go down Bruton Boulevard. From either way, those lines overlapped. And many churches are on Bruton Boulevard, and I know they're still there. And I remember driving on Saturdays and Sundays sometime when I first started. I was there for a while, so I had seniority, but I'll never forget what I saw when I'm driving on Saturday nights and sometimes Sunday morning. Saturday night, I'm driving and pass the church. Then Sunday morning, come back again. And while everybody's dressed up, the ladies with their glorious outfits and grand church hats, you know how we do. We got to show out. Going to the Lord's house on Sunday morning, we got to look good for the Lord. Meanwhile, everybody's looking to each other. And the brothers dressed down, cars shiny, rims shining, everybody grandstanding. And they're doing all of that for the Lord. No, you're not. You're doing it for each other. Because if you really cared about your community, you would have noticed as you drove over or past the curb, you know how it comes down smooth with the street and you go into park, you'd notice all of the crack vials. You'll notice all of the condoms that you're driving over from the, how can I put it, exchange for services that went on in your community while you slept, showing how decadent and how degraded your community really is at the core, while you perform like a circus show, more concerned about being upstaged by a fellow church member because they got the brand new car, the wider hat, or paid more tithes, and the pastor acknowledges all this foolishness we care about. And your sons are out there paying for some raw dog oral sex, and your daughters are accommodating him, spreading HIV in record numbers in the black community. They pick on Houston and they pick on Atlanta, Miami, and other places, but it's all over the place now. Worse, not even just from those transactions. But we're out of control. So what did education do? It's a prison. Did we really become educated on self-discipline, self-control? See, in certain areas, as long as we portray this pristine individual who has it all together, it doesn't matter what we do in the middle of the night. Yeah, you know, my wife don't do that for me, so I don't go around in one of these blocks, man. Pay one of them crackheads, hit me off. I'll bust one or two off and go home, pay her like $10 and go on. Until you realize what you brought home. I took a little detour. We'll get back on track. From the first grade on, children learn to memorize rather than to discover. They learn that knowledge has value only if it pleases authority. And who is the authority? Come on now. What do they look like? Who are they on these jobs? Grades become the currency of worth, replacing natural curiosity with fear of failure and hunger for approval. So you ready to tap dance for massa. Instead of empowering yourself in your own community and your own people, You went through all that schooling to still be subservient with the brilliant brain that you were given. Right? Replacing the natural curiosity. I'll tell you a little secret. Sometime I'm down here in the studio. There's a bathroom down on this floor on the other side of the house, as well as other rooms. But it's not finished yet. It's tiled off and everything, but we don't have the toilet and everything set up, whatever. That's coming in a few weeks. So I don't always go upstairs. I'll go to the back, past the carport, right by the bushes, and take a quick leak. I'm telling my business. I don't want to go all the way upstairs. Nah, I do that. I love down here. For the last 4 days, I haven't even gone upstairs. I've been downstairs in the studio. I love it. You ever see the old rappers, Tupac and all them? And I don't drink liquor. I'm not smoking weed, but they're in their studio grinding all night and all day, and they're having fun. They're laughing, and they're rapping and recording. But that's what I do here. This is my fun spot. This is my club. But anyway, why am I saying this? When I said natural curiosity, I put the lights on back there, but I also carry a small flashlight, just in case. Because, you know, in this part of the world, we have things called snakes, and it's all over. It's in America too. But I'm not trying to step on something I'm not supposed to step on. So I look down and I see two shells, two snails. The snails have come out partially out of their shell. So here I am taking a leak, holding my flashlight in one hand, looking down at the snails, and of course my other hand was occupied. Now my natural curiosity wants me to research the mating habits of snails. Because the two, how did they find each other? I mean, my backyard is vast. They must have a way of communicating with each other to know where to find each other. The insects and the animals and every living thing that I run across here. And because I have the time to think with the natural curiosity, I want to know more. So tomorrow, I'm going to dedicate a little time to researching snails. Because their shells were big and they were parked up on each other. Now, you know, when you have the park and you have a parking lot and you have a girlfriend or something and you meet at the parking lot at night, the lover's lane, and she pulls up in her car and you pull up and your two cars are close to each other and you jump in one car. That's the way it looked to me. It looked like that. I was like, wow, they're similar to human beings. So my mind is wide open more than it's ever been, because I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to have my time taken up on a job just over broke, J-O-B. My bills have been reduced. Of course, we all want a little more money, but that's not my God. Ascending, going higher on a spiritual level, learning more, vibrating with the world around me and the righteous people who have something on their mind more so than gossip. That's what I'm into. But we're corralled and manipulated in our thinking when we are in school. The ones who seem to be more subservient, they get the prize. The ones who seem to be ones who are independent in their thinking, they rewire your mind. They discourage you in certain ways. You see, that's why we have to be very, very careful. Because by the time adulthood arrives, most people no longer ask questions. They have been trained to believe that life is about following instructions, performing tasks, and waiting for permission. That's not education. This is programming. And you get the little star on top of your test paper when you score high enough in the form of a paycheck. And then you go home again, like I said earlier, to recuperate, to garner just enough energy to repeat the process again. And as we accumulate more stars on our paper, more degrees, more pieces of paper, with no curiosity now, you puff your chest out because of the ability to have more of a chance to fit in something that ultimately doesn't benefit you. You get your money, but most don't do anything with it. They get caught up with buying things, name brand clothes, brand, like a branded slave with somebody else's name on you, and you bragging about the brand name that you have, like a slave that had that hot iron put on their arm or parts of their body with the name of the slave master. So if you escape, they know who you belong to. Just the same way, when you leave from one plantation, corporate plantation, to the next, you have a resume. So they can see all your branded tattoos on you. Oh, you work for this company. Okay, let me call up and see how good of a subservient Negro you were. You got computers now. They don't even have to call back and ask anything. Facial recognition, DNA, what? You walk down the street and they know who you are. Your fingerprints, everything. You ain't getting away. But as long as you are subservient, you're okay. The transition from school to work is not a transition at all. It is a continuation. The same bells that once signaled the start and end of class now signal the workday. The uniform becomes a dress code. The report card becomes a performance review. The teacher becomes the boss. The system is seamless. You're told what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. You are evaluated, ranked, and compared to others, just like in school, like we said, processed. Your value is measured by standards you did not set. And like school, the system keeps you anxious, fearful, and dependent on authority for survival. But like I said earlier, your value is measured by standards you did not set. And you know what? Like the creative person, the innovative person, the free thinker, when you go above and beyond those standards, you're not rewarded. Many of us think, oh, if we do more or come with something new, no, you better stay within the guidelines. That's what we pay you for. That's what we give you the stars for, or the extra cookie or pretzel, or the bonus points. So your parents can say and clap, and they reinforce it because they act pleased. Maybe they're revolutionaries and understand. You need to get the basic education, but they need to give you some more. Instead of trusting these strangers with your mind, you have to sit down and speak with your children on what they are learning. Who are your teachers? What's their personality like? Why do we send our children to schools and we don't have a background on the teacher? We got to go to a job and have a resume to get the job. Well, why don't they show us their resume? Things that they may have done in the past with other students, which may not have been too good for their minds. Where did they teach? Why do they teach? How did you end up here? See? Hold them accountable. but we know what it is. We think we just send them there and they'll come back all right. It may be very low standards for us. It is low standards for our children. They don't care. They want to push them through. I do remember a few teachers that look like us against those other 1948s that would make sure to get the numbers of the parents of certain children that they knew would fall by the wayside if the parents weren't hip to certain things. There's one teacher in elementary school that I didn't have, but she was so nice with everybody. And she was one of those teachers. And they would pull the parents or the grandmothers or the aunts or whoever raised those children, those black children, to the side and get them hip to a whole lot of things to prepare them. She was like an educational underground railroad. She was a scholastic Harriet Tubman. You see what I mean? But she couldn't be so overt with it, because how dare a teacher who looks like the students take pride and give them a little extra to not get caught up in the traps. We're told that success is the result of effort. Work hard, follow the rules, and you will rise. But this is a lie. The truth is that structural inequalities decide outcomes long before effort even begins. Structural inequalities decides outcomes. Yeah, Freudian slip, it decides incomes too. I'm in my zone, I'm slipping with the words, but I'm feeling it right now. Decide outcomes long before effort even begins. Children without resources are blamed for not achieving as much as those who had every advantage. Children without resources. It may be where the parents don't have time enough because they're working 2 jobs. It may be a single parent household. It may be a household where attention isn't given to one child enough because there are other children, other issues, other problems, or rather challenges. They may go to school and not have the proper nutrition. They might be fed sugary, processed, starchy foods in the morning, high sugar, where they crash when they get into the classroom. You see what I mean? They may not have their own room, their own computer, their own space, maybe not even a quiet household. I'm not saying this is the way it is with all black children. But for those in the inner city who are not making enough of an income and who are living a certain way, those challenges translate to the performances of the children. Children without resources are blamed for not achieving, like it's because of their race. If you took the other ones from the other affluent side of town and put them in the same circumstances, they'd be on the same level. But then again, we're still talented. We're still innovative. Greatness still seeps through because it's in our DNA. Some fall to the wayside, but many of us still rise. And this is what puts fear in their heart. Because while their sentinels have infiltrated the school systems to watch out for the ones who will be threats in the future because of their brilliant minds regardless, they have to do their job. That's their job. And it's our job, whether it's our child or not. Didn't have to come out our loins. You need to be there as much as you can. That's the fact, and that's the truth. And this is why with our relationships, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Stop choosing the wrong person, or stop choosing somebody to be with you based on lust, based on how good they look, based on a passing feeling or what they did to you behind closed doors or in the back seat of the car, the alleyway, wherever you did your thing. We need to remain to ourselves until we know what we're all about and work on ourselves, and we don't need someone to complete us when we're incomplete ourselves. I've been in other relationships before, and I learned looking back, and I'm embarrassed. Me, yes. I look over past relationships and I say to myself today, I wish I can go back in time. I'm being brutally honest with myself, and I know you felt the same way too, some of you. So what made me get with her? And I backtrack. And I find it's something frivolous. And because of those pleasures or whatever you were thinking, you think you can build something solid around us. So you're dooming your future children with an inferior foundation. Because now as the drama happens in your life, because you chose somebody not on knowing yourself and walking alongside with someone who has their own goals that you can hold hands and work together and support each other. You get two deficient people who, when the going gets rough, the foundation collapses and the structure falls right on those children you created. So to the younger folks, don't just meet somebody and lay up with them, make a baby here, lay up with this one, make a baby. You can't make that situation right. I don't care how much your mama tells you, well, you know, you can make it right. No, you can't make that right. I mean, you can make it right by feeding them and putting clothes on them, but you laying up with all these people and the brothers who are making all these babies all over the place, and you can't get along? Even when you think it's love, it has to be more than that. We have so many things against us. So many things against us at the root, that every time you see a successful nuclear black family, you have to applaud them. You have to reward them. Because what comes from their loins and their connection enhances our world and gives us a chance. But this illusion, the illusions that we're taught, they continue into adulthood. And if you cannot secure wealth or stability, you're told it's because you did not try hard enough. The system hides behind the myth of fairness while exploiting those trapped inside. In reality, obedience, not brilliance, is what gets rewarded. And so now we put a target on our head when we try to show how brilliant we are. We instantly become the enemy. From the first day of school, the enemy is watching. They're not going to tell you how great you are when they want to dominate you. You're giving them our silver and gold, meaning that our best, our children, fresh, clean slates of a mind. With all the technology now that we can use in a positive way, they turn that against us. See? For black people, this system has always been harsher. Oh, there we go, talking about the race card again. Well, let's talk about it. Schools in our neighborhoods are underfunded, overcrowded, and stripped of resources. Our children are often seen as problems to be controlled rather than minds to be nurtured. Discipline replaces encouragement. Compliance replaces creativity. You didn't hear me. Discipline replaces encouragement. Compliance replaces creativity. We're not guided and encouraged. We're disciplined. And what's the years ago they were giving the children who had all of this energy in school, instead of guiding them and encouraging them and taking that raw energy to amplify their achievement, they gave them Ritalin. It's crazy. Ritalin. So you messing their minds up from young. And weren't they given some type of financial star to the parents? Well, if you take this Ritalin, we'll give you a little money. Correct me on that. I don't know about those things deeply. But let's pull back. Like I said, when you go up in the plane and you can see things on a broader level, you see your neighborhood for what it is. You put things into perspective. The analogy that I usually use every third, fourth show. You have a beautiful picture on the wall. You stand back, you can see it. Put your nose on the picture. Involve you directly with that picture close and put your nose on it, and you can't see the picture overall. So many of us are caught up in our private lives, as we should be, but in areas that we don't need to be indulging in. You got children that need to be dealt with, but you're worried about that next man who's flirting with you. You got children you need to take care of, but you're worried about that pretty young thing around the corner, and you cancel out the time that you can spend with your children. And then we have situations, yes, real situations, where you have mothers who demonize the father to the children so good and so well that the children grow up hating the father. Getting the cops called on them for nothing. This masculine energy of the mother who uses you as a launching pad for her own life just to get you to pay child support, and you're gone. You don't want the man, but you sure want the money. And them kids are not really getting much of it. It's amazing the things that we can talk about and what we will talk about. Because I'm coming out swinging. Like I said, the higher I go, the more I can see. I just can't hold down low vibrational conversations. Yeah, on our shows and our open mics, I'll tell some jokes, and you know how that goes, just to laugh, but that doesn't really tickle my fancy. You see? But the result is a high cycle of adults who are told to accept less, to expect less, and to remain loyal to systems that do not serve them. Because we've been trained to wait for the star on top of the shiny star they used to lick and stick on the top of the paper. We're waiting for that. From the school desk to the workplace, Black lives are often measured, judged, and ranked by external standards that deny our humanity and potential. Don't look at that puppy dog smile. Oh, welcome, your family now. Welcome to the company. Oh, please. They'll be gossiping about you, looking to take your position. You wear them braids going in, they don't like that. You better relax that hair. You better not look too revolutionary. You better not dress too black. You better not have a better body than them. You better not have life force and the glowing melanin. You better not have that stuff. You better not love who you are. Men, you better emasculate yourself to fit in their systems. If you're 6'3", you better walk like you 5'6". If you sound like Barry White, you better try to sound like Michael Jackson. Hee hee. No knock on Michael Jackson, but you know what I'm saying. You better be subservient. You better not look at their women now, because they're scared of what you might have between your legs symbolically. And really, it's not just symbolically. You better not be a well-built, handsome black man who's confident and very much moral, because they'll still watch you like you're going to try to make a move on their women in the corporate landscape. And don't be seen going to lunch with one of their women. There's going to be rumors. Do you like him? Did he make a move on you? Don't be seen together out of work. But it's okay for that CEO to have that secretary who's encouraged to dress in a way that's not too appropriate. His little plaything. It's okay then. He'll have a job for you that way. All your schooling came down to you being a plaything. But they never have a job for the black man. They got to cover hiring a female and a so-called minority, plus the benefits if you want to cheese a little bit after hours in my office. It happens all over the place. Different brothers that I know who work in corrections, they say how it happens all the time. You have the white supervisors, higher ups, you have the rookie COs, the females that come in and they get caught up with those supervisors and get better schedules and the perks. It's happening. It's happening, y'all. Let's not turn our eyes to it. It's not because you're qualified. There are many of us who are qualified by their standard, but that's not what they use. No, the system is not fair. So why are you too scared to build a system of your own? Huh? Why are you scared? Every child begins as a thinker, a creator, and a dreamer. But the system slowly kills that spark. Drawing outside of the lines is corrected. Asking too many questions is punished. Creativity is called disobedience. Over time, imagination is buried under rules and conformity. It's a beautiful thing. It could be annoying sometimes. I used to be that way, and I still am that way. My parents never killed that in me. What am I talking about? Say, for example, my mother's at home, me and my father go out in the van, and we're driving somewhere. Daddy. Yes, little Lance. How come the trees in the fall have leaves that turn brown and fall off? Well, they have a thing called seasons. And in this season, it's preparing itself for the wintertime where all the leaves will be off. And the trees hibernate here up north. They're not dead, but they look that way. Why, Daddy? Well, because it's cold and then why? After every time my father would answer a question, I always said why. I wanted to know more. But that's killed off with us. See, we need to still think this way. They want to kill off your curiosity, your imagination. I found it amazing when it hit me that historically, most, I'd say, revolutionaries had some type of artistic ability, not just with the paintbrush or the pen. They might sing, they might do something with their hands, they might be a creative cook in the kitchen. They had some extreme high-level talent. And this immediately told me that this is why they fight so hard to kill off the arts in their schools now. They don't want to have art class anymore, because that opens up a side of the brain that thinks outside the line and outside the box. That's no good for them and their dominance over us. So they have to kill that part unless it benefits them to make them lots of money later on. The Goldbergs and the Goldsteins and the 1948s and the small hats. They're there in the schools, and they're there to take advantage of our talents and abilities, and we get nothing. Oh, they'll forward you a little money and make you look good in the video and everything like that, so many others can be led to slaughter. But you're not going to be a part of that system and become a revolutionary. They're going to shut you down. You can't say anything about what's really going on. You see that every time one of our entertainers or somebody who is subsidized by them, an athlete, an entertainer, whatever, they say something and it's shut down. It's like they never existed. That's why when they did the strong slaves who wanted to do, or those who were enslaved who wanted to break out or fight against massa in revolt, they made sure to make a scene and buck break them in front of everybody else to let them know, if you have a thought like this, this is what you're gonna get. And there was a supervisor on my job in corrections in Orange County, and he was the prototype of that type of Negro who watched other people who were enslaved get slaughtered. And I used to repeat it and make fun of him behind his back. Yes, I did it behind his back. He said, yeah, Scurv, you know you're drawing them pictures and you know you're writing those things, and you know you got to be careful down here in Central Florida, because you may see the palm trees and you may see Disney, but this is still the South. And if I don't want to make no trouble. I want to keep my house. I want to keep my car. I want to keep my job so I can get my pension. I don't want no trouble. I don't want no trouble. So he's telling me, fall in line. You're supposed to be somebody who has his status on his job as a supervisor. I'm not saying you got to roll up in there and be Malcolm X every day. But how powerful are you? How much status do you have where you still have to sound like a Negro? A tap dancing Negro. I don't want no trouble. I used to say that under my breath when he'd walk by. I don't want no trouble. See him over there? I don't want no trouble. Or he'd talk revolutionary amongst us with certain few. Because remember, I worked around a lot of Klansmen. And I didn't bite my tongue. And the funny part about it is, if they met me on the back roads where they lived, it would be a whole different scenario. But I'm going to tell you about them. Those people, they had more respect for me, if you can say that, because they knew I was different from the subservient Negroes that they conquered. I'm not saying it was respect like, oh yes, we really respect you. But it was like, you know what? And one of them told me, it said, Scurv, from your side, that's the way you're supposed to be, the way you are. These others, the ones that say, I don't want no trouble, we have no respect for them because they got no damn backbone. So now in their mind, we're on opposite sides, but they can see that I'm not afraid to stand up. We spoke, we debated, I won most of the debates. Without venom, wasn't angry, you are who you are. I know how you feel about me. I don't want to marry your sister, your daughters. I have no feeling for them. I have no feeling to push myself up under you and be up next to you. And they had none to be around me. But I was not afraid to say that. I was like, yes, mother, yeah. Sitting there as a man doing anal kegels in their presence because I'm so fearful of them. No. No imagination for your people, just to fit into what they give us, the crumbs they give us. This destruction of imagination is not an accident. It's a design. A population that no longer imagines alternatives cannot build freedom. Look at us now. How many of us are running around, I don't want no trouble. A community without creativity cannot break chains. This is why the system fears originality, creativity, because originality and creativity threatens control, and they watch us from young. The truth is brutal, but it must be faced. Education, as it's designed, does not free us. It chains us. And it trains us to accept jobs we do not love, lives we did not choose, and futures we did not imagine. The Black community must see through this illusion. We cannot allow our children to be processed, as I said before, processed in a system that kills creativity and teaches obedience as survival. You don't want to just survive, you want to live. We must reclaim learning as a tool of liberation, not submission. And you're not going to get it in their so-called public schools, with those people over our children. Breaking free begins with questioning everything, which they don't want you to do. It begins with recognizing that what looks like opportunity is often domestication. It begins with rejecting the idea that our worth is measured by grades, job titles, and salaries. You see? We must teach our children to think, to create, to question, and to resist. That's when you gotta really have that revolutionary heart, to resist. We must remind them that their power does not come from external approval, but from within. Only then can we break the cycle. See, if we do not rise, the cycle continues, and that's guaranteed. But if we awaken, if we reclaim our imagination and rebuild education for liberation, we can finally step out of the prison built for us. The time to awaken is now. And in actuality, the time to awaken was yesterday. Decades ago, we began to wake up, but then we're given things that keep us asleep, that keep us in that halfway zone, which is even more dangerous. Because, you know, when you wake up on the weekend or you have a day off and you're groggy, and you don't have to get up right away, I'm gonna lay down for another hour and a half. I ain't got nothing to do today. And what I can do, I can push it back. We're hearing the call to freedom, to revolution, to liberation, to what we must do, but we're groggy and half asleep. Let me scroll down the Facebook page and let me see what woman I can send a friend request to, because, ooh, look at that one there. She looked good. Are you serious? That's always going to be there. You do what you need to do as a man, you'll have no problem with that. But they've taken everything that is righteous and turned it around to something that's poisonous. And that's a whole other discussion. But I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I'm already having different topics in my mind to come up with, to go deep with. And I want us to have these talks. And I do appreciate your comments in the comment section, whether you agree or not. It's not about that. I'm not here just to get followers and you agree with me. If you disagree, state it. I'm cool. I'm a big person. I've been around for a couple of decades. Like when you see a business and it says, since 1954, since 1908. Well, Lancescurv, since 1963. If I don't have a thick enough skin by now, it's never going to happen. Make sure to go to Lancescurvx.com to see all the work current. Lancescurvx.com. And join by entering your email, and you'll get all of everything that we do emailed into your inbox, and not depending on these shadow banned social media platforms. You'll get everything. And some of the things that I can't put other places, on all ranges, from rated G, PG, rated R, rated X, a little bit of everything, the whole human experience. I just want to let it all hang out. And I thank you for lasting this long. Your support to me is your presence here in the sharing of this work. And we continue on. That's all we can do, is to be a light in our path. We conquer the world by collectively dealing with what's in our path. Of course, we're aware of everything going around in the world, right? You have your circle of concern. We're concerned about us all over globally. But we have our circle of influence that we need to bite down more on what we can touch and what we can change. And we have to go in with a focus and not get so emotional. We get emotional, we fall off track. We have to stay focused on the goal collectively. And we have so much work to do. But the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, right? So let's get to stepping collectively and iron out our differences and create the new world for our children, because we know that we have so much coming against us, but we must also know that we have vast potential, strength, knowledge, creativity, sunlight on our melanin, getting those righteous downloads, and being the natural people that we are, which to others, they see us as supernatural, but it's super only for them, and it's natural for us. So let's stop moving in an unnatural way, eating unnatural foods, thinking unnatural thoughts, and living unnatural lifestyles. Let's come back to who we are, and if we do that, we can never be defeated. Thank you very much for lasting this long. I'm on to the next one. Lancescurv out. Much love. Peace.